People have talked about them for decades, and in recent years, we've seen the government discuss them more. We're talking, of course, about UFOs. Reports of unidentified flying objects have jumped during the last year, probably because of the pandemic. But tonight, we're joined by a man who has been tracking these reports and investigating videos for years. George Knapp of MysteryWire.com is here to talk about some new sightings. Welcome to the show.
How you doing? Good to see you.
So tell us about your latest story that you broke involving pictures of unusual unidentified aircraft on both coasts.
So there's an organization called the UAP Task Force, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, created a year ago by Congress, and they've been ordered to create a report that would gather information from all the different government agencies, from the military, CIA, FBI, put it together and present it to Congress by June of this year. We were able to access some of the files and materials that have been gathered by this task force, and what they show are pretty amazing. I mean, you see these three photos right there. Those are what we released on Tuesday. They were recorded by pilots by this air cruise out of a Naval Air Station Oceana, which is a huge and hugely important Navy base in Virginia. These naval crews have been seeing these things for 6 or 7 years, directly in the flight paths that they fly every single day. And this one crew on one day took photos of 3 of them. They kind of look like drones, kind of look like balloons, but they don't act like drones or balloons, and we don't know who they belong to or why they're there. There were 3 of them, as I said. The one is looks like a metallic blimp, but it doesn't act like a blimp. There was one that the military calls the Acorn, which some have tried to explain it away as a children's balloon shaped like Batman. It is not. The other was just a sphere that was sitting out there. They sit there for hours at a time in the same spots and in these over restricted airspace, and nobody knows where they came from. And they, as I said, they've been there for a number of years. And the Navy turned over these photos to the UAP task force, and as of right now, they remain unidentified. The second part of the story is one that we worked on with a colleague of mine, a filmmaker named Jeremy Corbell. He was able to access some of the files of the UAP task force about things that have been going on the West Coast. Since July of 2019, warships in the San Diego area, which is where our Pacific Fleet have been swarmed by what they call drones, sort of the generic term that they use to explain these things, but they're coming out of nowhere. They're not detected when they come in. They're not being able to be tracked when they go out, and they swarm around the ships and really have freaked out the Navy a little bit because we don't know why they're there or where they're from. Some of the images that were released are pretty hard to understand. They look like, I don't know if you guys have got them there, but they look like flying pyramids.
We're watching them there.
But pyramids. So the Navy recorded this video via a night vision and sent it to the UAP task force, and they can't figure out what they are or why they're there or where they're from.
So what are some of the theories about what they could be? They're unidentified, obviously, but what do you think they are, and what are some of the other theories floating around out there?
I don't know what they are, and neither does anybody else. The theories were, are they foreign drones? Are there Chinese ships somewhere in the area that have been sending these things to spy on our Navy and just to mess with them? The thing is, they have capabilities beyond any drones that we know of. They can sit there in the air for hours at a time. They avoid being able to be detected. We don't know how they're powered. And as I said, those things that look like pyramids, that's not exactly an aerodynamically sound flying shape that you would normally expect. Are they foreign? We don't think so. Are they U.S. Navy or U.S. military black projects, secret projects that are being tested on our own troops? Also, that's gone up pretty high up into the Pentagon. And basically the answer is no. So if they're not ours and they're not the Chinese or the Russians, whose are they? Well, that's when you get into some pretty exotic possibilities.
Well, as someone who's been in this field for quite a while and learned quite a bit about it and been investigating and researching for quite a while, what's something that might be surprising to the American public?
I think the American public would be surprised about how much information and how much evidence the UAP task force and the Pentagon have collected over the years. I mean, you figure it makes sense because our military has bases all over the world. We have sophisticated sensors. We have personnel, planes, ships. If anybody could gather information on this, it's the military. But it's sort of been a forbidden subject for a long time. So there are stovepipes of information, little bits and pieces of information that are kept separate from other agencies in the Pentagon, and nobody's put it all together until now with this UAP task force trying to pull it together and create this report for Congress. I don't know if we'll ever be able really to solve the mystery or not, but I think we probably have to try, because these intrusions, while whatever these craft are, they haven't attacked us with laser beams or anything like that, but we don't know who they are or where they're from or what their intention is. And they appear over nuclear facilities, over sensitive military bases, over ICBM bases. So you would think, and I think now the Pentagon agrees, that we need to get to the bottom of it.
All right, we are out of time, but this is a fascinating topic. Mr. Knapp, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.